When it came to training, one of the first things that Naruto was taught how to do was to make shadow clones. With his ever-growing chakra reserves, it was clear to Kurama that it would be the most beneficial to his training because of their properties. The ability to obtain information and relay it to the user after being released or destroyed meant it could increase the amount he could learn at once. While Naruto could only make 6 without feeling completely drained because he was young, it was still more than some jonin could make, and as such boosted his training. It also meant he could get used to the sensation of receiving the information without it overloading him. He left one clone at home to study books that Tsunade had given him, so that if anyone were to visit him, things would seem natural, and there would be no questions asked because he did not know the content his adoptive sister could test him on. 2 of his clones would work on chakra control exercises. Another 2 went to the library to look up taijutsu and kenjutsu styles under the transformation jutsu, which had been one of the first things he learned. His transformation was special. It was solid, thanks to the ability that Kurama had given him, and it was quite useful since it didn't dispel even if he was hit. The last clone stayed nearby Naruto in case he needed it, and practiced basic survival skills such as trap building, setting up camp, and hunting. The original Naruto worked with Kurama on things such as physical training, practicing his Dojutsu, and when he was exhausted, taking him into the mindscape to look at the strategic side of things by playing a few rounds of shogi or analyzing scenarios that Kurama would manifest from his memories, such as battle scenes or Tsunade chasing after a certain super pervert with a bloodied nose. Both Naruto and Kurama were happy with the progress they were having, even if it was slower than Kurama hoped, only because of the limits of Naruto's 5-year-old body. Naruto was not the only one making improvements, however. It was clear even from the outside that his biological siblings were going to become prodigies. It was not unusual for clan heads to start training their children early, as Matoshi and Kotsuko had, but for them to excel in the ways they had already done was drawing the attentions of other clans. The scariest thing about it all was that those 2 children were not just all talk, actually had some skills that many children a few years in the academy did not, and were not bratty or arrogant as many prodigies were. Kushina had quickly disposed of that attitude. Minato had also taken action because of the pair, making sure that the academy's curriculum would be changed at the start of the new school year. In 5 months' time, in the new curriculum, graduates who passed above 60% and below 90% would become genin. Those who passed above the mark in every aspect, writing, taijutsu, ninjutsu, and weapons throwing, would receive the title of Tokubetsu Chunin, and would be placed in a team with other Tokubetsu Chunin and automatically enter into the Chunin exams that took place a month after they graduated. Tokubetsu Chunin would allow the person to take lower level C ranks and D ranks alone, and higher level C ranks or low B ranks with another team of Chunin or Tokubetsu Chunin. They are superior to Genin but lesser to Chunin that have completed the exam and gained the rank. If they fail to pass the Chunin exams the first time around, they will be stripped of their title and become a genin, still eligible to take the Chunin exams in the next 6 months. Ordinarily, the increased difficulty would have been frowned upon by the civilians, but with the chance for them to still become genin and increased motivation for the children from ninja families to pass it wasn't something that they were against. There was also the argument that it would make Konoha stronger and hopefully keep casualties down. Children who had been enrolled before the curriculum change would be graded during the end of the year test in 3 months' time and placed into classes with other people in their skill range. People who were deemed unable to continue by the teachers at the academy would be given the choice of a 10-week trial with the new curriculum, and if they could not keep up, would be sent to civilian schools, along with other changes, such as decreasing the power of the civilian council to simply advise and not give them the ability to vote, as they could overpower the shinobi council and any matter. Konoha was set to become a force to be reckoned with. 4 months had passed, and it was now only a month until the new school year started, as well as the new syllabus for the academy. Naruto would without a doubt be ready for a set syllabus, but did not want to enter school so early despite pestering from people who claimed to see his potential. As of the fact that he already under the close eye of Minato, who seemed to hate him as Dai and forgotten that he had a son called Naruto was enough. Apparently it wasn't. Kurama had informed him on the many downsides of being a child prodigy. They had time on their hands for now, and wasting it on things that would hinder him, such as bratty children, attention from nosy adults, and academy training that could wait until he would get the most benefit from some of those things. For now, their best option was staying on the down low as much as possible. Needless to say, although disappointed that he had to wait to officially become a ninja, Naruto couldn't disagree with that logic. It would keep him from being a target until he was older and could safely defend himself from a range of threats that may rise up over the years. At the moment, he was nothing special. Nobody would try to attack him simply because he was related to the Hokage or because he held the Kyuubi, as practically nobody knew he was either of those two things. Kurama had a plan too, regarding furthering of his training, which would start to be set into place, but needed more help than just Kurama for it to work. And as such, he was walking towards his godmother Tsunade's house with Shizune beside him. They were greeted at the door by Tsunade, who gestured for them to enter. "Welcome, Dai, Shizune. I prepared us some tea, so just come in and sit down." The pair did, and Tsunade sat as well, taking a sip of her tea. "You have some explaining to do, Naruto," asked Shizune, slightly confused about the situation, having only been told that he needed to confess something to the pair and to meet them there. Tsunade had a decent idea, of course, but Shizune was in the dark with only a few vague ideas. "Yeah, Shizune, I need to tell somebody about all of this," he said, gesturing to his hair, his eye, and then his stomach. Shizune's eyes widened, thoughts running through her head. He trusts me enough to tell me. She was excited about that, but tried to hide it, which in hindsight was the better option. A sigh turned her attention to Naruto, who, although a little shaky, seemed completely relaxed. "I presume you know the fox is sealed within me, no?" Naruto said quietly, almost hesitant to speak, partially because he was treating dangerous being sick and sleep deprived is not a good combination. He was threading dangerous ground, and they all knew it, and partially because he was a tad scared about what the woman would say. He would deny any claims that he was scared, of course, if anyone else found out. Naruto didn't want it to come to that. The pair nodded before Naruto continued. "I must let you know a few things first. I cannot tell you everything about what happened to me. I will reveal what I can, but it might not satisfy all your questions." Although they wanted to argue, the pair said nothing, knowing of how evasive about the tailed beast sealed within him Naruto had been since the change. "Second, you're not permitted to disclose this information to anyone else, but it is not yours to tell. Are we clear?" "Yes, Naruto." After waking Kurama up from a nap, Naruto looked at the woman, gave them a nervous smile, and began to speak. "So it all started when I was training one day. I had just unlocked my chakra, and I began to find this fascinating thing within me. It was darker than my own chakra, but there was an underlying longing and sadness. Now I know it was just a fox wanting a family, but hey, we all need to be loved by someone. Anyway, I went on a search for it, and eventually the chakra consumed me. I'd used a lot of my own when exploring it. I'd subconsciously begun emitting it while meditating, so I'm lucky nobody found me. Anyway, my lack of chakra allowed me to send his chakra through the seal. The seal was designed for the chakra to leak out so I could use it, so that's how he was able to. It took me to my mindscape where I met him, the Kyuubi, and a member of my family. It took about half an hour for him to tell his story, including conversations with Kurama asking whether or not to include certain information. He wasn't confident enough with his own judgment. He was still learning after all. Naruto explained most of what had happened to them, to them, leaving out only a few pieces of information that he had been explicitly told not to reveal by Kurama. He couldn't reveal everything, especially some of the ways that he trained and the majority of the information relating to his bloodline skills. Even though the two women could be trusted, he couldn't run the risk of anyone suspicious of him interrogating them and finding out information that they shouldn't know. Deception is one of Ninja's greatest weapons after all, and would give him the upper hand if he was the only one who knew all of his skills. He didn't need to worry about needing a sensei to train him and know his skills so that it could help him improve. He had Kurama for that, and that would suffice for now. He knew that he had to be very careful about the way he played things, since the future was uncertain and he didn't want to take a risk that led to his downfall later on. Whoa, Tsunade breathed, taking in the information that she had learned. In all honesty, there hadn't been too much, just enough to give them a good idea of what was going on, but not enough to make complete conclusions about his skill. I understand that you didn't tell us everything, but that is still quite intriguing. You certainly do continue to amaze me, Tsunade said, thinking a little bit. She hadn't been too surprised about the fact that Naruto had been doing separate training, even if she didn't know how much, but the other information she learned was interesting, particularly the fact that Kurama had altered his DNA. When she had looked at the results of the blood test, a lot of bloodline from the Uzumaki was greatly present, along with some other unknown DNA. It almost seemed that there was nothing left to connect him to Namikaze Minato, but that wasn't true. But this altering was quite special, and Tsunade was just hoping it was something only Biju could do. She did not want to have to deal with altered DNA in this lifetime. Naruto nodded, running his hand through his hair. He had considered asking something that he and Kurama had been trying to figure out, but decided against it. There must have been a reason that Minato had begun disliking him as Dai, although he hadn't come up with anything more than that he was jealous or worried of his potential. At least talk this over. I wish to tell you more, but I'm sure you know very well why I haven't. Tsunade nodded, speaking up in response to him. And because we know why, we can see just how mature you're becoming. She gave him a look of approval, something that made him proud to receive. Naruto knew that she didn't give them to too many people, and even though he had a hunch that Tsunade would give them to him more in the future, he still was glad for it. Anyway, I want to talk to you a little more. There was this plant I saw in the training ground and it was quite interesting, he told them with a smile. The adults returned the smile and happily talked to him about less important things from there on. Naruto was just glad that the discussion had gone well, and was happy that they could be taking a little break that all three of them needed and enjoyed. After a few hours spent at Tsunade's house, the older woman had to return to her work, and so that left Naruto to go with Shizune. During their time spent together, while it was mostly relaxing, they'd gotten down to business and talked about schedules. Currently, they were sitting down together at some place that sold curry, discussing their plan of action. Now that he was further along with his training, both his chakra levels and control, Naruto was going to start learning more skills. While he wouldn't learn more than simply healing spells, he could learn about poison, botany, and types of medical things that weren't chakra based. For example, what leaves and berries could be used to make different medicines, or could be eaten if he was out on a mission. How to treat different types of wounds without healing jutsu, and plenty of other things. Anyway, this would require time to learn. Even if he could now make 20 copies of himself using shadow clones and maintain them for a day, there was only one Shizune. He was planning to use 5 of his clones for learning this field. 2 could be reading books and making notes, and the other 3 could be for more practical based things or doing whatever they were told to do, which could also include studying. That meant that his other 10 clones could do what he usually did, and he could continue work. As much as he and Kurama hated to admit it, Naruto's younger siblings were actually extremely skilled and composed, as to be expected if they were trained by 2 of the strongest ninja in the village. This meant that it was a must for Naruto to train, so that he would be able to keep up with his younger siblings. Speaking of which, Naruto's siblings just happened to be nearby where he and Shizune were sitting and eating their curry. Minato and Kushina accompanied them, and they entered the restaurant as they had heard of the good reviews it got from the people. They also meant that the room was pretty packed, and one of the only spots left was the booth table that was besides Naruto and Shizune. They quickly ordered before moving over to where they were, sitting down without even asking. "Good afternoon, Shizune. I hope you don't mind, but we must sit here and or else would have to leave without trying the curry. It was supposed to be exceptional here," Minato said, almost completely ignoring Dai. Kushina was almost exactly the same in her treatment, and she hadn't even met Dai before. Usually Kushina was open and friendly towards people, especially children, with Naruto being the one exception. "That's awfully suspicious, Kit," Kurama said, slight confusion lacing his words. Naruto had to agree, quickly sharing his observation with Kurama while Shizune made conversation with the two other adults. "I'll think about what it could be, but I can't promise I'll come up with something anytime soon. It's definitely odd though." Naruto sighed a bit, silently continuing to eat his curry, ignoring the stares from the two children near him. There was something about Dai that seemed familiar, but they couldn't place it. It was almost like they had met him before, but with the red eyes and dusty orange hair, they definitely would have recognized someone like that. Katsuko gently tucked her mother's sleeve, glancing at Naruto as it was rude to point. Kushina looked at him, frowning and pointing him out to Minato, who apologized profusely for not noticing him. "How have you been, Dai? I trust Shizune has been looking after you well?" he asked politely, giving him a smile that looked genuine enough, but Dai knew something was up. "Yes, Shizune has been looking after me. She's wonderful," Dai explained, beaming up at Minato before smiling happily at Shizune. "That's good," the Hokage replied, who thought before questioning the boy while using words he believed Dai would understand. "So how do you feel about becoming a ninja and joining our academy early? We have a new school program this year, and we believe you to be a good person. We believe you to be a person good enough to get through to become a Tokubetsu Chunin. You could be in class with my two children, Motochi and Katsuko. They're clan heirs, and I'm certainly sure you'll be good friends with them." Shizune was about to speak up when Naruto decided to take matters into his own hands. "No thank you, Hokage-sama. I am happy to wait until I am 10 as is still the recommended age for joining the academy. I feel like I will be better prepared for the real world if I do not start when I'm extremely young. Personal achievements such as the youngest ninja do not matter to me." All of the Namikaze/Uzumaki family were taken aback by this statement, but nobody said anything as it was not the right time. Minato and Kushina knew this boy was smart by choosing not to become a child prodigy, and that intimidated them slightly as their own children could not be persuaded to wait a few more years to join the academy. Even so, Dai would become a fine ninja, and Minato wanted him on his team as soon as he could get him, even if he hated the boy. The longer Naruto resisted the academy, the less he could be influenced by the good teachings of the Leaf Village, and more likely he was to become a rogue ninja. A ninja who had no will for protecting the village was not a trustworthy ninja after all. Kushina spoke up next, trying to at least keep this boy on their side even if there was something about him that she hated, since she was obviously quite powerful with those massive chakra reserves for someone his age. "It's okay if you don't want to join, sweetie. Just take your time. We're always here if you change your mind. It's an honorable and just path to become a ninja and protect your village after all." Huh. Honorable and just. This village just loves sprouting propaganda, doesn't it? The life of a ninja is anything but honorable and just, Kurama growled, sighing a bit. "I got nothing, kid. I can't focus when they're around. There's something about them that disturbs my thoughts ever so slightly, like I'm being touched by something ever so slightly. It's weird, but I'm willing to bet it's something to do with Kushina and Minato." Hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment Q, and I'll see you all in the next part. Roll the